Good evening, everybody. I'm Councillor Claudine Russell, the Chairman of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I'm pleased to welcome you to this meeting of the committee. The meeting will be broadcast live and recorded for playback on the Council's YouTube channel. Will anybody else be recording the proceedings? I look to Councillor Mackay.
I will reserve my right.
Lovely. Just asking so that people at the meeting will know if this is happening. If we get the fire alarm, which did happen at KCC earlier actually in committee, please remain seated and Democratic Services team will assess the situation and give further instructions on the evacuation of the building if necessary. So moving us on to the agenda, item number 1, we've got apologies for absence and I have received apologies from Councillors Cannon, Harper and Oliver. Nobody else. Councillor Parfitt is on her way. She's just got stuck in traffic. So item number 2, we've got substitute members and I'll go around the room that way. So Councillor Reardon.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Reardon for Councillor Tom Cannon.
Lovely, thank you. Councillor Dawes.
Councillor Dawes for Councillor Harper.
Lovely, thank you. And Councillor Green.
Councillor Green and for Councillor Oliver. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you very much. Urgent items. Well, there's one urgent update to item 13, which is our Cabinet Forward Plan. So we've got the fresh off the press one, which is anything, just a reminder, anything in grey is items that are too late for us to call in to overview and scrutiny. And we've got one item in yellow, which is added new for this tonight. So have a few minutes to look through that before we get to the item. Moving us on to item number 4, which is visiting members. I can't see any visiting members sitting in the gallery. So item 5, are there any disclosures by members or officers? Looking around the room, I can't see anyone indicating. So moving us on to item number 6, are there any disclosures of lobbying? Again, can't see anybody indicating. So item number 7, I move that all items be taken in public unless any member wishes to refer to item 19, which is the part 2 minutes of our last meeting, which was held on the 15th of July, in which case we would have to move into closed session to look at that particular bit of the minutes due to the likely disclosure of exempt information for the reasons specified on the papers, having applied the public interest test. So if nobody wants to go there, I move that all items be taken in public. Is that agreed? Lovely, thank you. That moves us on to item 8, which is the minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of June, and they are pages 1 to 5 of your agenda pack. And I'm just going to ask Ms Parfitt to explain the changes made after the previous deferral. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So, members, I just wanted to outline to you the changes that we made, given the committee's agreement to defer the minutes at the last meeting. So if you look at page 2 of your agenda papers, item 19, we've just amended that to include that an updated forward plan would be provided to the committee after agenda publication. Again, on page 2, item 20, we've specified that the committee would conduct pre-decision scrutiny on quarterly finance reports starting from the first quarter. Page 4, item 22, there was unfortunately a spelling error in the resolution, which we've since amended. And pages 4 to 5, item 24, which was the work programming report, there were some slight incorrections to the description of the debate. So we've amended that to include that the top 3 topics that received the highest number of votes would be included in the work programme, which they have been, and that the top 2 topics receiving the highest votes would commence their reviews in July 2025, and we specifically then included the seal charging schedule review in the formal resolution. So it's just to make sure that everything was formally captured. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for taking us through those. So I move that the minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of June be approved as a correct record and signed. Is that agreed? Lovely, thank you very much. I'll sign those in a minute. And then item 8, we've got the minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of July, which are pages 6 to 12 of the agenda pack. And again, we've got a brief explanation on these ones. Please, Olivia. No, we haven't. These are correct. So I move that these minutes, parts 1 and 2 held on 15th of July, be approved as a correct record and signed. Is that agreed? Lovely. Thank you very much. That moves us on to item 10, and we don't have any petitions this evening. Item 11, we don't have any questions from local residents. Item 12, we haven't received any questions from members. And that takes us to item 13, which is the Cabinet Forward Plan, which can be found on your new update. So that's been circulated. I'll give you a couple of minutes to look at that. As I said previously, the grey items can't be considered for pre-decision scrutiny, so we're too late in the cycle, and the yellow ones are either new to the plan or changed in date. So I'll give you a couple of minutes on that. But are there any items which the committee would like to conduct pre-decision scrutiny on after you've had a look through? Is that enough time to have a look through? Does anyone want to call anything in for pre-decision scrutiny? I can't see anybody indicating. So on that basis, I move that Councillor Higson, were you indicating?
Yes, I just wondered why we've got Ashford Borough Council's draft local plan 2042 on there.
Sorry, what page was that?
It's on page, they're not specifically page numbered, but it's the one after where you've got the bright yellow on the bottom, turn that page and it's the top of the next page. It's a consultation because we're their neighbours, so it will be Maidstone providing a consultation to Ashford's regulation 18 consultation on their local plan. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 22, there is Maidstone shopfront improvement scheme grant. I don't remember this being part of the budget this year. Is this new and added?
Yes, I think it's the approach for the criteria for the pack, but it was on the previous. This is not a new item onto this plan, so we had this in the original papers that were published, but I don't really know any more than what's written here, and we never really do. So I don't know if the leader would like to just expand a little bit on what that is. That'd be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, if I remember rightly, it's external funding that we are able to spend in town, so it wasn't in the budget. We have some money.
Is that external funding from central government or KCC? Thank you very much.
Oh, Councillor Mackay?
Yeah, sorry, I lost it for a minute. Could we just have an update on the property acquisition for council house building programme? Where are we at with our building 1,000 houses? Where have we moved since our last meeting? And by the way, I'll ask this question every time we meet.
I mean, you shouldn't really have to answer it because we are just looking at items on the forward plan. But if you will indulge, Councillor Mackay, that'd be really helpful. Thank you.
Need indulge.
I probably can't indulge you anywhere near enough. I think perhaps a conversation with William and Simon Wales is probably easiest because it's complicated and it is moving, but we don't have the time to do the detail here, and I haven't got the briefing in my head that you would require.
I mean, an avenue that's open to councillors of any committee, but particularly obviously this committee, is to ask for an agenda item to be put on with follow that process. So that would probably be the best way of getting an update to this committee to have a look at. Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. I've got another couple of questions on the forward planning. To answer Mr. Councillor Mackay, is community and housing community pack are having update every single time they have meetings about the purchasing of new property. So if you ask any members of your teams that are on the housing pack, they'll be able to give you an update on a regular basis, unless you prefer to watch it on YouTube. But I've got two questions. One is on page 23. It's about the overview of Maidstone air quality annual status report. It says here that there's a new DEFRA air quality monitoring that's been happening. When and where can we read the report? Is that going to be given to us soon, or is that already been given to us? I don't remember seeing it. And then I've got another questions about page 26, but I can wait. I'll do the question of which page 26 while you're thinking about that one. Is revised EDI policy. I have no idea what EDI stand for
Right.
and what that policy is about.
So EDI is equality, diversity and inclusion. So that's what that is. That's an annual update, or it might be a revised whole policy. We won't know until we get it to the different, to the Housing Community Policy Advisory Committee that's coming on the 9th of December. But if you wanted to have a look at it at overview and scrutiny first, we could do pre-decision scrutiny on that, or happy to let it run through the packs. The overview of Maidstone's air quality annual status report is a report for noting, so I don't see any value in bringing that to overview and scrutiny for pre-decision scrutiny, given that pre-decision scrutiny from this committee is something that can add value to the decision-making process, and that's a report for noting. So I don't see particularly the value in that, unless anybody else is indicating. I can't see anyone is. Was that all the answers to all
No,
the
that's
questions?
absolutely fine. I was wondering which pack was going to have these reports noted. That's all.
Lovely, thank you. I can't see anybody else indicating on the work programme, so on that basis I move that the work programme be noted. Is that agreed? Lovely, thank you. And that takes us on to item 15, which is the first quarter finance update, which remember we will now be receiving to this committee every quarter. So we're going to have this report introduced to us by the Leader of the Council, Councillor Stuart Jeffrey.
Yeah, fortunately I've got Adrian here who can add up better than me. There are three pieces just to draw your attention to the report. It's quarter one. We're pretty much on target. There's a slight favourable balance in terms of the revenue budget. Capital budget, there's a bit of slippage because particularly around the corporate property acquisitions, because we haven't found any suitable opportunities. And thirdly, there's a request to write off some outstanding rent that we are unable to recover. And Adrian's got all the detail in his head.
Thank you. Yes, we have got our Head of Finance, Adrian Lovegrove, here to assist with any queries as well. I don't know, did you have anything else to add to that introduction?
Just a little bit in terms of some of the variances. So in terms of revenue, they are broadly in line with what happened last year. Some are obviously higher and lower. So we are still doing well on our investment income. So that's a positive in terms of doing well. But outside of the CTCS committee, which is this report was initially focused on, we are still struggling with things like temporary accommodation. So the volume is still not hopefully dropping down at all. But we're also finding the time that people are staying in temporary accommodation is longer as well, so that's not helping in terms of the overall cost. We'll hopefully start to see what that trend is looking like this year. There was a little dip sort of June time and sort of, but that may be more of the better weather rather than the actual overall the downturn. So as the weather is now starting to turn, we'll start to see whether that turns up as well. So yeah, it's just the ongoing underlying pressure on that still continues, but broadly in line in terms of those key things that we've always had for the past year. Again, we'll consider how we deal with those budgets for next year, and hopefully to reflect either going up or down and putting them through that process, which will probably feed through to packs and relevant places.
Thank you. Before I open it up to the floor, just need to ask Councillor Parfitt, have you got any disclosures or had any lobbying? No, lovely, thank you. And also, just so the committee's aware, I neatly skipped over our own work programme, but you'll see it's the items that we've been working on. There's nothing new, so we'll go back to that in a minute. But open the floor for questions for anything on the first quarter finance report. Councillor Dawes.
Yeah, I've got a few questions. My first one is on page, hang on, because I've been looking through all of them. Yep. On page 34, it's in a budget area of Maidstone House, Archbishop Palace, the rent allowance and South Maidstone Depot. I actually wonder why there is overspend on those 4 lines. Do you think you could give me a slight overview of the reasons why, please?
Yeah, so certainly things like the depot, currently they've got an issue with some of their drainage. So it's partly linked to simply the drain going to the main highways issue. So again, they're just trying to fix that and resolve that. Sorry, what were the other ones you wanted to? Yeah, so generally we try to make sure we recover the rent we get through the system, not always quite on cue in terms of full recovery. So it's going to be slightly worse this year than we had anticipated. I can get more details on that one because I don't know a lot of detail on that one.
The Archbishop Palace.
Archbishop Palace is relates to the continued plan to rent that out through the market. So obviously doing some work to make sure it's available for proper use in terms of that commercial facility. So that's just taken a little bit longer in terms of that work, just due to the nature of the building in terms of its age and making sure that it falls in with planning permissions and so forth. So it's just sadly one of those things that's taken a little bit longer than we hoped.
Humour me, but I thought it was the place where people used to be able to go and be married and sign the registered. So wasn't that already part of Maidstone, and why did that stop?
So at the moment, I think the plan is to make sure there's some catering and other facilities that can add to that sort of wedding ceremony and so forth. But obviously, just because it's a very old building, to make sure that the catering facilities are in and the right commercial people are interested, because it's obviously they're great old buildings and they're great when you're getting married, but in terms of operational is not always what you want to work out of if you're in catering or other functions. So they're trying to do as much as they can within those building regulations, but obviously got to make sure it all works within that.
Thank you. That was my first question. Anybody else want some questions in between?
I've got Councillor Mackay, so we'll go to him and come back.
Okay, it's just on the Archbishop's Palace. On page 42, it says an agreement for the lease is expected to be signed shortly with the new tenant occupying from September 26. That's still the case?
Yes, that's the plan at the moment. So that's the commentary we've had in the past couple of months. So we still hopefully that plan that to go ahead. I mean, it's obviously still part of the final legal negotiations and heads of term. So fingers crossed, assuming nothing goes wrong, that should hopefully continue and progress on time.
Clearly, if it's not, then the overspend will be more than what's currently budgeted for. And are we able to share who we're talking to? Are we able to share who we're talking to, or is that confidential at the start?
I can't, well, I don't know the detail. I wouldn't share that because it's the commercial nature.
Okay.
Just because it's supposed to be commercially in confidence. And sorry, just to clarify, because it's summer 26. So yeah, I will double check whether that future overspend or loss of income it will continue or not, and what the impact is. I'll double check that one.
Back to Councillor Dawes.
Yeah, I'm back on the rent allowance. Last December, I think I recall either on housing pack or on audit, there was a 100% increase in the rent that we allowed to charge to our social housing because the government was allowing us to. So I wonder whether the deficit that you've got is the fact that you haven't received the money that the tenants wanted to, no, it's got nothing to do with that.
So the original agreement in terms of increasing rents is on the basis that if it's our accommodation, we're allowed to do that. But because you reclaim it through housing benefit, it's cost neutral to the tenant, but obviously we gain because obviously we get the income. So it was agreed that's the right way forward. So it's not linked to the rent allowance.
Thank you. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to go back on the business of the Archbishop's Palace. This is a somewhat unique building in Maidstone, and there's a lot of public interest, and there certainly was a huge amount of interest when it was first suggested that it be converted for conference and hotel purposes. So I think if we're looking at a tenant, I'm not asking what or anything now. I do think it would be helpful to have the opportunity as an overview and scrutiny to have a report. It might need to be on yellow pages, but have a report on what is going on that. So generally there is an understanding of the progress that is being made. To what usage is the Archbishop's Palace then going to be put? So I'd like to move that we do request a report on that, maybe towards the end of this year before we get into next year.
I'm
That's
happy to
seconded.
second that from the chair, and I can see a few people nodding. So would that be, I take it that would be agreed, that the committee would like to have a look at that? Oh, Councillor, fine.
So it's just to point out, so the original business case, and I can't remember how long ago it came to committee, is what we're working on and still working through and to. Obviously, once we get nearer the final figures and what that means, if it's substantially different, we'll have to come back because obviously it's not within the financial limits. So anyway, so that's all being worked through. Just to give you some confidence, there is a programme board that Mark Green chairs and reports up to CLT and Cabinet to make sure all of the programme projects are being managed and delivering as we should do. So Katie's on the call as well, so she helps deliver that. So just to give you sight, there's oversight and making sure that we're clear on what's happening and so forth. So just as a bit of background, not saying you can't ask for more information.
Councillor Cook.
I'm encouraged to hear that. I'd like to see a report that demonstrates that, because I think at the end of the day, I think there's an old thing that officers advise and members decide. And I'd like to see the progress. So if that's got the blessing of the committee, which I think it has, Madam Chairman, if you're happy with that, I so move.
I can see most people nodding in agreement. I mean, it can just be a briefing update, can't it? So yeah, is that agreed? Lovely, thank you. Just one item from the chair before we go back to Councillor Dawes. I was disappointed to see how much the Moat Park kiosk has gone overspent. Now, I know that is covered from grant income, but obviously that's still money that's got to come from somewhere. And, you know, we're now talking about, for that small building, it's costing in the region of £300,000, which, you know, is house type money for a small kiosk. And I was a bit disappointed by that, but I mean, obviously it's built now, so I don't know. Are we doing some work on lessons learned for further procurement exercises?
So, Chair, sorry to jump in. So
The variance is on page 48. The budget for it was page 46. Yeah.
So as you say, irrespective of the funding and how it's done, if you'd like, I can chat to the relevant teams back in the office and get an update in terms of a bit of feedback on why it costs more and a bit of lessons learned around that. So whether that's the actual delivery and costs more, or whether we got the estimate wrong in the first place and so forth. But yeah, happy to bring a little briefing note back. That will help.
That'd be lovely. Thank you very much. And back to Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. On page 36, in the conclusions of 217, there's a 4 million, and I wonder what that 4 million money is awarded for. Are you able to enlighten me?
The
The minimum level of
the
reserve.
minimum revenue, yeah, is 4 million is a policy the council has set that we must hold. It's almost like a savings account in case something bad goes wrong. We will hold an amount of money in case we need to, you know, whether it's a COVID or a flood or something horrible happens, then we've got some money to be able to afford some of those issues. So that's what that 4 million is based on.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair. Page 48, flood action plan. It says this project's being delayed. I don't know a lot about the project, but I did hear that it's been delayed because KCC won't. Is it because they don't want to pay for it or something like that? Is this money contingent on KCC paying half, or I don't really know what the plan is for it, because it's quite an important project that needs to be done, obviously.
So, sorry, through the chair. So we're on page 48. We're at the bottom item there, flood action plan. This has been talked about as a project since my very first days of being elected. So I think it is not moved fast. In fact, it's moved zero. But perhaps we can have a latest update on it. Thank you.
So yes, I mean, there's an update going to Cabinet tomorrow on the wider flood action plan. And the various schemes that are contained within it. In terms of the specific floodgate on Fairmeadow, yeah, it's about 8 years now it's been due. I wrote to the Director of Highways 2 months ago saying, what on earth's going on? This is ridiculous. KCC have asked another load of different questions and want assurance on other stuff and want a 100-year plan on how it might be managed. I think it's 100 years, they said. And they're coming back with some ridiculous stuff. So we are in active dialogue with them. I will escalate to the Cabinet member for transport at some point if things don't get resolved very quickly.
Sounds like an active delay from KCC.
The last time I ever heard about it, it was going to be a glass barrier. I don't know if that is still the intention, but it has been that for a very long time. Councillor Mackay.
I may be being very thick here, but this is a forecast year-end variance, and the variance is £930,000, close to £1 million. So is that assuming that it doesn't happen then, and so we won't spend that money?
It's just sat there.
And we're talking about £1 million for possibly a glass door. Yeah, well, but we are only talking about the underpass not flooding. We're good. Thank you for that.
Yeah, as I mentioned in response, the underpass is one aspect of it. There is a wider flood action plan.
Thank you. I can't see anybody else indicating. Oh, no, Councillor Dawes, go on, quickly.
Oh, one last one about the parking service. It's on page 41. I'm not quite understanding what the parking service is. It's got the number in red for 2.4 million. Is that it?
And I'm slightly colourblind, so I'm not necessarily going to get this quite right, but all the negative figures should be in red on this table. So you may notice the one below, which is only a -3, is still in red. So it's just any negative where they are making what it looks like a surplus is a red figure.
Yeah, don't forget,
Yes.
local authority goes the other way round the budgets. Yes. They like to make it extremely confusing to do everything the other way round. Right, so I can't see anybody else indicating on that. Thank you very much for that information. And that moves us on to item 16, which is the empty properties review. I think this was. Sorry, there is one decision to make. We've on the page 30 of your report, we just need to make the following recommendation to Cabinet that number 1, the revenue position at the end of Q1, including the actions being taken or proposed to improve the position where significant variances have been identified, be noted. Is that agreed? Number 2, the capital position at the end of Q1 for 2025-26 be noted. Is that noted? And number 3, that the uncollectible rent, which is listed at Appendix 2, be approved for write-off by the Cabinet. Is that agreed? Thank you. Yes, I was taking us back before we go forward. Apologies, I'm going backward. So that is just to our committee's work programme, which we should know well because we're running on it now. It's on page 27 of your report pack, and I don't know if anyone's got any questions on what we're up to. The one thing I would say is that we've actually done some good work as this committee. So where we recommended various things to Cabinet following our planning enforcement review, they were all accepted, which is really good. And that includes the recruitment of a further planning enforcement officer to the team. So that advert is out, I believe, and that recruitment is running now. So that post will soon be filled. And I think that's really good work that we've done as Overview and Scrutiny to bolster that team and hopefully bolster the council's planning enforcement capabilities. Understanding the level of trust, we are working on that now. We've got some responses from 2 different people that would like to come and work with us and have questions asked of them. We're just waiting on responses from some others. So we'll look to schedule a couple of meetings around that. It'd be probably October now. And the seal charging schedule, we are going to get it's going to be a short one, and we should get that to the October committee. But if anyone else has got any questions, Councillor Dawes?
Yes, regarding enforcement and planning, I wonder how is Rob Jarman leaving the council will actually affect the planning team altogether and the plan on not replacing him.
I mean, I think that's a wider question than our review. So our review on Overview and Scrutiny, and if you came on this committee, you could join in. We looked at planning enforcement throughout the council. We picked up various items, one of which was that we were maybe just on the start of a ski slope down on some of the numbers. So that's why we recommended filling that post that had been vacant, which is where we got to with this. On the wider question of planning and the robustness of that system, I would suggest you ask the leader perhaps on an email, and I'm sure he'll get an answer to you on that. But as far as I understand it, there might be a bit of movement, but the overall planning team will still be fully resourced, but there might be a bit of post movement. But I'm sure if you email the leader, he'll give you a full answer on that.
Thank you.
Can't see anyone else indicating. So now we're going to go forward to item 16, which is the empty properties review on pages 53 to 67 of your agenda pack. We're going to have this introduced by Councillor Stuart Jeffrey, and then we've got Katie Exon, who's the Head of Property and Leisure, who's virtually joining us to answer any questions as well. So hand you over to the leader.
Thank you. This is a policy review that it's good to do from time to time, and particularly as we go into local government reorganisation, making sure that this policy is robust and fit for purpose is essential. The majority of the policy we were happy with. We've made, I think, we've made 3 slight changes. One around increasing the protection and enhancement of natural, built and historic environments. A change around future arrangements for securing maintenance and sustainability of the property. And thirdly, the introduction of an option to transfer freeholds as well as leaseholds, freeholds specifically to well-established trusts, only in the case of the confidence that that transfer will be sustainable. And the reason for that is it helps with bidding for money from, for example, leasehold is seen as if you're leasehold on something, it's not seen as quite as robust. So it will help some of those organisations that take on property. Katie will have all the detail in her head to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Has anybody got any questions they'd like? Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. I read on page 64, then on other factors, the occupational efficiency was exemplary reducing the meter square per person.
I think that's one for Katie.
Yeah. Sorry, can everybody hear me there? Can you just repeat your sort of like question to me so that I make sure that I understand it so that I can answer that fully?
Yes, it's about the occupational efficiency utilization. There's an
Yes.
example of reducing the square meter per person. That slightly worries me. Can you explain a bit what that means?
It shouldn't be a worry. It's just really if it was a case that there was a building that's not just sort of like as a broad example here, if there was a building that was capable of say for example an office building that could occupy and have 20 desks in it, if that was only being used for 1 or 2 desks, obviously that it's not being occupied to its full capacity, and that would be a consideration that the building isn't being occupied either by ourselves, which would score it to potentially dispose of. It's not residential. This only refers to our commercial properties.
Okay, thank you. That's most helpful. That it's
I probably should have just said.
Yes,
sorry,
that would have
I
helped
should
a great
have said
deal.
the last line first. So.
Can I go with my second question, Mrs. Chair, or is there somebody else who wants a question?
I can't see anybody else indicating, so far away.
On page 65, 3.9, it says there that the council must advertise its intention to dispose of property in local newspaper for a period of 14 days. That sounds extremely short, 14 days. When you're thinking about summer holidays and Christmas holidays, could that be increased by 6 weeks?
Madam Chairman, are you okay for me to come in and answer that?
Please do.
Okay. So the 14 days is the minimum period that the Local Government Act 1972 requires you to advertise. So the actual process of that is you have to advertise it for a consecutive period of, for the 14 days. But then you have a 30-day window for objections to be received to the newspaper articles. So they are the minimum recommendations, or not recommendations, but the minimum legislation that the Local Government Act requires you to do. There is nothing stopping us increasing those. And I have to say from experience, while some may think that corporate property are just hard-nosed and commercial, which we can be, we are very mindful of not doing things over, school holidays, Christmas periods, because we know that we're likely to be pulled up on those type of things. So, good practice would be to avoid where possible periods where you know people are going to be away. But it's not just a 14-day opportunity for an advert and for people to gather their thoughts and formally write to the council. It's that the advert has to run for a minimum of 14 days, but then you have a 30-day period after that for objections to be received and considered by the council. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much. That does answer my questions perfectly well. Then I propose to amend the policy because we're just reviewing this policy to be written down for the future. So can I amend that it states clearly that it's a minimum of 14 days and potentially that would like to, as a usually would prefer it to be 6 weeks. So people have got the times. Busy business people don't always are on the balls to actually go and buy a new property within 14 days.
It's not buying. If I explain what happens, so if somebody came to us and there was a piece of land that is currently held as leisure or open space land, there's an obligation on us under those circumstances, if it's held by the council as amenity, leisure, parkland, for us to advertise the disposal under the legislation of the Local Government Act. And so we have to advertise it for 14 days with then the objection period, and any objections received would be reported back to the relevant PAC and Cabinet for decision. But it doesn't mean to say that the 14 days plus 30 and then bang, the hammer falls and that property is sold. I personally wouldn't recommend that we put this to from 14 days to 6 weeks, because on the other side and turn of the coin, we may actually frustrate and lose a disposal because somebody hasn't got 6 weeks plus the conveyancing time, and we all know how long conveyancing can take, to allow for a sale, a sale to complete. So I think if we could put, I would recommend that we perhaps put the words in discretion and flexibility on the 14 days, but I wouldn't recommend that the council is prescriptive in saying this has to be 6 weeks. I would be my view, and I think that if we went to 6 weeks, it could actually cause us more problems as an organisation than keeping with the legislation that's been set, because I think we would be challenged on that by people.
Thank you. That was very clear advice there. Councillor Field.
Thank you, Chair. I was simply going to make the observation that because of the way the legislation is put together, the de facto period is 44 days, which is 6 weeks and 2 days. So
yeah.
Just perhaps a slightly shorter explanation, but we already have a de facto period of 6 weeks.
Yes.
So I can't see a reason to change it.
Thank you.
Councillor Parfitt.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I was just going to say I don't propose changing it. I think adding in things like flexibility and adding in additional words just creates more confusion. I think we should keep it as it is, knowing that there is 30 days after the 14 days. Thank you.
You happy with that, Councillor Dawes?
If everybody else is, then yes, I am.
Okay, well, so is there a seconder for Councillor Dawes's idea? No, so I think that falls. So is everybody happy on, oh no, Councillor Field, another comment?
Just a brief question for the Leader of the Council. I'm sure you said about the transfer of freeholds to mature trusts in your preamble. I just wanted to clarify whether parish councils would also be included within that consideration.
I think they're fairly stable, mature organisations. I mean, it would be done on a case-by-case basis, clearly. But yeah, they are legal entities and defined in law. So yeah, I think they would be one of those options.
Okay. Is anybody else got any questions on this item? I can't see anybody indicating. So this item was brought in for pre-decision scrutiny. I don't think we've got anything to add to the item. So are we happy to send it forward to Cabinet for the ultimate decision making? Is that agreed? Great. Thank you. And that takes us on to item 18 of our agenda pack, which is our planning enforcement. No, 17, I'm doing it again. Turning too many pages, that's the problem. Page 68 to 75 of our agenda pack, and this is our current review that we're doing on the understanding the level of trust between the council and the public. We've obviously, this is a bigger review and we've just started it. A reminder that the whilst we call it the working group is open to everybody that can attend, so it's not a select group. If you want to join in, please do. We've got the minutes of the first working group on this on page 73 onwards, and you can see that basically we had a look through all of the background information that had been kindly provided to us. We decided on a few people that we'd like to invite to further this topic, 2 of which have got back to us. Democratic Services are going to chase the others and see where we get to, and then we'll have another meeting to discuss how many people we've got to interview, how we're going to do that, what kind of questions and things we'd like to ask them. Okay, has anyone got any questions on where we're going with this? Councillor Dawes?
Sorry, I'm new to the council, so I've got lots of questions for your meeting. The 7 peoples has been chosen. If only 2 response and you've got a very low number, does that mean you will be recruiting some new members, some new residents to be part of that discussion forum for the trust, building trust?
I mean, all I can say is the public gallery. I always look at an empty gallery and I don't see any officers or any residents or any councillors coming. So please come and join us, Overview and Scrutiny, whenever you want. The leader is here. He has to be here to answer some of the questions. But yeah, or maybe next year when the committees get reviewed, join us. But what that means is for our review, we're getting some subject experts in to help us, various different areas that we'll look at examining trust. Some are from well-known trusted institutions that we looked at, and so others are from different, so you know, like the fire service or things like that. And we looked at a bit of background on all of them and the topic of trust in general. So trust with central government, trust with local government, trust with information bodies like the NHS, etc., etc. And we are getting a couple of those to come in so that we can further the topic and the discussion. So it's 2 out of the people that were offered that have replied to date. Yeah, subject experts.
So if your invitation is open and I've got a particularly vehement residents, I can send them to be part of building the trust between residents and the local government, yeah?
No, sorry, subject experts. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair. It says here on page 74 that there's quite a lower response rate for surveys, response to surveys. And I think in the past, and myself included, when councils ask you to fill out a survey or a consultation, and usually they ask your ideas and your responses and then they completely ignore them. And I think that this is one of the reasons why maybe they're not, you know, there's been a low uptake for taking surveys, is they might need to be more of an innovative idea to get more of a response.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. This was like a smaller strand that got teased out of the overall subject that we were discussing, which is that some consultations are fairly impenetrable to residents, and could there be a different kind of like a snap survey that runs alongside a more full consultation. But the Democratic Services Officer has offered that the relevant Deputy Communications Manager would be happy to come to our next committee when we have a look at this, so we can maybe tease out that smaller element of the wider topic with her, if We look to schedule that in, that would be good. Next working group meeting, sorry. Yeah, not next. We're doing it as the working group. Yeah, Councillor Wilkinson.
Maybe we could use the kind of way that market research use it, where they have those little kind of invite several people along and in groups to ask questions with some kind of incentive, but I don't know if that would work or not.
Yeah, I think, you know, what we should do is explore the topic, because it sort of got teased out of the overall topic of trust, didn't it? And I think it'd be a good idea to, in the next working group meeting, perhaps we invite her along and we investigate that as a mini section of our overall plan. That would be good. Councillor Kehealy.
Thank you. Just on page 75, the last section of next steps, I'm sure everybody's aware that Robert Worcester passed away last week, so that would perhaps need amending. Thank you.
Thank you for that update. The Mackay.
On the subject of surveys and this, I recently completed what was supposed to be a quick survey from Maidstone Borough Council. You know, maybe I'm short lifespan, but you know, it seemed to be quite a long one to me, quite heavy. But I did participate in an online Teams meeting with regard to something completely different. It was to do with the motion we put forward on violence against women and girls. And we are employing an outside body to get together people from the communities, young, old, and they seem to have some, you know, I was curious about how they're going to engage with teenagers, boys and girls, because they're particularly difficult, but they were quite confident they could do it. And I think we should look at how that goes and see whether we can get something out of it on different subjects. Yeah.
I think that is the general idea, but I know that they're starting with this topic, and then I guess they'll work through that, get the feedback from there, and see where they move on to with the overall public engagement forum going forwards. Anybody else got any questions on that? I can't see anybody indicating, and that was just a report for update. So that takes us to item 18, which is our response from the Cabinet for our planning enforcement view, but I've already spoiled the happy ending earlier by saying that they agreed to everything and we're getting the new planning enforcement officer, so I should have waited till the end really on that one. But has anyone got any comments on that? No, I think just thank you again. It's nice to see that we do some work here and it gets noticed and picked up and implemented, so thank you to the leader as he's here. And I can't see anybody else indicating to speak on anything. So on that basis, I now declare this meeting closed. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.